prayer in schools and Bibles in classrooms, Ten Commandments in schools, that's all a false argument. It's not going to make any differences in the morality of the society at all. During the 50s, um, and before that, when they had prayer in schools, that was the same time they had the white and colored water fountains in the school hallways, and the schools were segregated. So prayer in schools does nothing for the morality of this country. That's just a false argument. The preachers today, the teachers, they are biblically illiterate. It just sad because even from the days of the Old Testament, Moses and Joshua always told the leaders, the elders of the Israel, to pass down the commandments to their children and their children's children from generation to generation. Learning about God is the responsibility of the mother and the father, not the schools. The schools is for preparing children for the real world. In other words, children should know how to act when they get out into public. When they start school, they should know how to act. The school should there should be no responsibilities of the school on placing morality in children. So this argument is all posturing for political purposes that these preachers are teaching now and trying to enforce on society. And it's not going to work. It's not going to do anything for the betterment of the morality of this country. On top of that, you have to look back at history during that time. They took prayer out of schools in 1962, and during that time, this was the end of around the end of a few years after the World War II and the beginning of the Vietnam War. And this is the time where men were had been gone away from home to war and came back, and they were damaged physically and mentally. And weapons manufacturers had opened up a lot of manufacturing plants, and in order to fill those empty jobs where men were at one time working, they started recruiting women into the workforce. Corporate America, when they got a taste of doubling their workforce using women, they took women out of the homes. I would say during the 60s and 70s, they started recruiting women. Women started getting education, and they started recruiting women into the workforce because a lot of men were damaged. The families dysfunctioned. The families started breaking up. Divorces, stepchildren, and just different kinds of family structures. Mother and father was broken up. A lot of divorce, latchkey kids. Going into the 70s and 80s, a lot of drugs hit the street, and at one point you could raise a family on one income, but that's no longer. So they can't decide what they want to do. If they want families, yet you can't raise a family on one income any longer. You just can't do it. So women have to work. Yet they want a stronger foundation of morality in the country. They're just not going to get it. Prayer in schools and Bibles in classes is not going to do it. It's just a waste of time. It's a political talking point. Evangelicals are not smart people. The Christian leadership is not smart people because they don't think back on time. On top of that, you have going into the 90s, you had the daycare generation, and women were forced to take their kids to daycare. And then going into 2000, you had the school to prison pipeline where they were charging middle school children with adult crimes just for fighting. They went from fighting in school, where we used to do fighting in school, you get suspended, to the point where they are charging kids with assault and battery, and disturbing the classroom. I mean, criminal charges on kids, even to the point where they started calling in police to handcuff elementary school children just because they had a tantrum. So all of this school, prayer in school, and Bibles in class, it's just a political front talking point. It's contradictory of what society is. And what it is today is corporations are exploiting women and men, mothers and fathers, and to double their workforce. So they can't have it both ways. So I think that this, the craziness that these preachers, grown men, cannot think for themselves and understand that you can't have it both ways. You can't have big, strong families and women in the workforce. And, because the Bible even tells you that women should be at home, raising their children, loving their husbands, being discreet chase keepers at home. That is a good lifestyle, and that is something that women have fought against because they want this independent lifestyle. But a lot of women are starting to learn that it contributes to the dysfunction of the family. So you just can't have it both ways. I mean, you need a strong family, mother, father. You need a father at home with your kids. Children grow up resentful as because of divorce, and they bring that type of trauma into their own families and their own children. And people just never stop to think that the breakup of the family has a lot to do with the immorality out there, because it has a lot of trauma. People are carrying trauma. Gen X, the first generation of latchkey kids, carries a lot of trauma. So they raise their children, the millennials, and there's trauma. And that's why millennials blame their parents for everything. It's not gonna. You can't end it with prayer in school or Bibles in the classroom. And I'm just surprised that grown men cannot think for themselves without some type of political agenda or some type of savior, just pushing agendas down people's throats. It's sad, it's pathetic, and that's just another reason you see that this generation of the church is totally flawed, and there's a lot of false doctrine going around, and a lot of these preachers just don't know what they're talking about. Peace.